about the noise, where legends rise. From the clouds to the crowd, this is Crowd, where Africa meets opportunity, where music meets magic.
Welcome once again to another edition of our L&D series. And as you know, I'm your host, Elias Ayedele, also the Nima. And today we're talking about a very, very interesting topic, and that's more than the press, publicity as a global strategy for African music professionals. I mean, like, this is a very interesting topic, and we got the best hand to do it. We got the best hand, and this is someone in the music industry that has been making silent moves. And these days, as things are now, if you're making silent moves, you eventually cast, in quotes, you understand? So today we have Fadehan Okpeseyi in the building, ladies and gentlemen. How are you feeling today?
Doing good. I'm okay. How are you?
Oh, I'm glad to have you here. Right. So before we go deep into it, I don't know if you want to give us an overview. So we're talking about, aside from the press, how publicity is a global strategy for African music professionals. If you have entry notes for people that are clueless about this topic, so we can get started from there.
Our publicity is beyond and whatnot. It's a whole lot more. And I personally am on a journey to ensure that people are aware of the uses of PR beyond just press release publications and whatnot. I believe that the enlightenment of the public will do a lot of good, not only to PR or to PR professionals, but also to the general public, because it would give them an understanding as to how to utilize specialists, their PR manager, beyond the spread of press releases. So yeah.
Let's just get right into it. So first question I have here, publicity often gets boxed into getting the press. Most times when people are talking about PR, they're talking about stunts at times. They're talking about how everybody's talking about you at that time. I mean, like, Rema pulled the stunts recently, and people think that that is just what, publicity is, being in the news and everybody saying, oh, Rema is about to drop a song. But from your experience, how should African music professionals reframe publicity as a long-term positioning tool? I mean, like, aside from just, I want to be buzzing in the news and things like that.
Rightfully said, people just want to buzz and people just want to be viral. But PR is beyond virality. PR is the continuous storytelling of a brand, of an entity, of an individual. PR is essential because without it, your story, your brand, and everything that you work for can be misconstrued. It is a way for you to guide your narrative and to build a sustainable image and a sustainable brand in the long run. Without a compelling and an accurate narrative being crafted, you will not be able to get across to your audience. So I think at the core of PR is to ensure that the narrative is core, the narrative is engaging, the narrative is real. Very, very important. PR is very important because as you grow and as your brand grows, you need to keep the public updated on your process, how it's going, and where you are currently. That is the only way that you can stand, and your story can be told properly by anyone just by doing proper research, because you have taken time to craft it and put it out there for people who are interested in your brand to be able to relate with you. So it is essential of any talent, and it is the backbone. But yeah, I can even go on to say, like, people perception is very important. And if you want to be perceived in a particular way, the only way for you to go is PR. PR aids people perception.
About PR being a long-term scheme and not just about virality at the second, at the minute, at the hour. It's more about how you're telling your story, how you have your brand consistency, because these are things that, in fact, I feel like when I'm talking about PR, it even is more of the content rather than the buzz, because the buzz comes, I think, a few times in your career. And to make this very practical, I'm talking about artists like Fireboy, who had a peak where he had Peru blazing through the clubs, blazing at EDM houses.
That's why when Peru came, it was easy for it to penetrate through the media because he has been a consistent brand. Do you get? He has been consistently interacting one way or the other in a way that when Peru came, they were able to catch on to it. I don't even think, because Peru first dropped on YouTube, if we're being correct, right? It was first released on YouTube, but it gathered so much traction that he was pressured to have to put it out on DSPs. See the power of the media. It is you consistently feeding them. If you continue to feed media, if you continue to engage them, they would buy into your journey. It's easy for them to buy into your story as well. So you cannot disregard the media on your journey, because that is what you fall back to when you are trying to remind people or trying to stand in rooms to say, this is how far I've come and this is where I'm coming from. Someone needs to be doing the documentation, and with a certain level of accuracy as well, because you don't want to leave the power of your story in the hands of someone else who has never spoken to you before. So the focus is on you to take charge of those narratives and ensure that your narrative from even your team is being properly crafted. You have found niche angles that will be able to resonate with your audience, and you continue to tell those stories and continue to carry your audience along. Virality is fed by consistency, unless we want to talk about the use of money push, and that is a whole other conversation entirely. But if you are trying to be somewhat organic, get like organic virality, you still need to be consistent in your storytelling. People need to have been following you from one point up to another point to be able to say, I know this guy, he's been coming from here, this is his story, and they can now relate and buy into your brand. So the viability of your brand is fledged fully in the core of your story, of your narrative.
That was really wholesome. All right, so still speaking about virality, so we've noticed that the African music industry, the African music space, has been trying to catch up, because now, let me start from a simple POV. When the African music started, it first started something that we're doing in our backyards, and then all of a sudden it just blew, and then we are already in the global scale. Everybody's looking at you, and you're like, it's like you were called up on stage and you don't know if you're going to mess up or not. So these days we see a lot of African artists. Most of them did not even plan for the fame and the kind of buzz that they got when they released maybe their first tracks or their first albums, and then it went really far. And then there's nothing for them to actually show the world. They don't have. They've not been doing this thing from the get-go, so they don't know how to navigate and things like that. So, what unique issues do you think African artists have in, like, securing international press and media coverage? So, a very good example. I mean, we have a few people in the industry that are doing well. We have Ira Star, who is like doing perfectly well. We have Rema, who is doing perfectly well. Ashaket, who is doing good. But a typical African creative. Are you with me?
Those more recent times, the ones you are calling, can you make reference to anyone in past, before that era, who has been able to tidy up their imaging and their branding to be able to stand international waters?
Yes, we have like Fela, we have Sonny Ade. Even though in those times, I think those days we had a kind of structure, but I think it's just more pronounced now.
I'm talking after that. You mentioned Arya and Rema, then you went Fela and Sonny Ade. What happened in the middle?
I think there was a kind of disconnect. To be very honest, there was a kind of disconnect, and I mean, we'll get back to that.
Power of their story, and that's the beginning of the inability to even verify as much as age. We can't even verify your favorite talent's age on Google, that they didn't, if not for like more recent updates. So a lot of storytelling were left to the blogging eras. No shade to them, because the blogs came and sort of like propelled the urgency for media, which led to like people feeling like they needed to take more charge of their narratives because they started to identify that the stories of them online or about their brands or about their products were not essentially told properly or by the right people.
I think in those
So if
times,
there's already a problem in the foundation.
okay, I think in those it was just more about releasing your songs. Nobody was really going after a particular concept in mind. We just had a few that I think that
was given to wasn't ready to take it. That's why we have an industry that when it was now time, we were not able to take charge fully of the resources that we were given because we weren't ready. We hadn't laid a foundation and we hadn't laid a structure in storytelling. That's why we have a lot of people coming out to take glories for different things that were not properly accounted for or documented. So, and I think that this is why we continue to stand the credibility check in international spheres because stories are not properly told. So, to answer your question, I think you said, what challenges do we face in international pitching?
yes.
I think is that they are not able to, when they check on our stories, they are not able to find a lot of solid things to fall back to. How from local to Africa to the world when your story has not even gotten across Africa?
Right.
How people in other regions to resonate with your narrative when you've not done the tidying up in your regions? So your storytelling, either via content, either via text, either even via you as a brand, begins when you begin. And you continue to carry that and transcend them across regions so that when it gets to international tables, they have enough materials to look into to say, okay, this is what this person is doing. And also putting together a solid pitch. People forget that a pitch is a marketing deck. It's a marketing document that you use to sell yourself. So you put your hottest pointers in front of your pitch and your future projections as well. If you are not able to create a proper pitch as to why I should be interested in your story, talk more of why it should be internationally told, then why are we doing what we're doing? So I think that beyond other technicalities, being able to tell proper stories and to provide these publications with enough resources for them to be able to vibe check you, so to say, to check that you are credible indeed and you are someone whose story is compelling enough to be on a global stage. Yes.
Mm. So I think a takeaway from that is your story should be narratable to the people around you. They should be able to tap into that. I think that's the reason artists that started from the trenches, I'll use that, are it's easier for them. I mean, like look at Shake now. Shake is able to fuse his experiences on a global stage. We have Burna Boy being able to do things like, and that's why we see that like there is some gatekeeping because to start with, we just have few people who really understand what they are doing, and that's the reason they keep recycling them. You would realize that we have a recycling of artists like Thames, Rema, Burna Boy, Ashake at certain kinds of events. For instance, recently we had Thames at FIFA World Cup. Obviously, that was a strategic move, but it's because there are fewer people who really understand these cultural exchanges and how the PR reflects in your career as the artist. And I think that with this our conversation, people should get to see the role of PR managers aside from just the gimmicks and oh yeah, I'm a PR manager and everybody thinks.
You mentioned him, sorry. And I think from
So I think we lost you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hear me now? Can you hear me?
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
You're talking about Thames. I think that was where you like went off. Right, I think I'm back.
I lost my train of thought, so we can move on. All right.
I said you were talking about Thames before, like you got cut off.
I've lost my train. Let's move on.
Okay. All right. So, yes, I think we talked about Yeah, we said in the issues that we might have as African artists or as the African culture generally is telling our stories and people outside getting to understand, getting to see that there's some kind of relation in our own environment to now talk about the global stage. And this brings me back to my analogy earlier when I was talking about, we just started in the backyard. Everybody thought it was just a little thing that we were doing and we're just having fun with it until it became really serious. And then we started to land projects outside the African continent. Burna Boy, we blame Burna Boy, we blame Whiskey, we blame Davido, in the good way, of course, and things like that. So I think now it's just a call for emerging brands to catch up. It might feel premature for brands, especially people that are starting out, upcoming artists who are trying to first make a name for themselves in their communities, and then now they are seeing that, oh, I have to like also catch up with global standard, because now there is the cameras are everywhere. You don't know where you're going to find yourself the next day. You might just release a little snippet, and then everybody all over the world is singing your song, and you're like, this is really fast, man. This was not what I expected. Very good example. He dropped his first track, and then everybody was going wild about it. It was like, wow. And then just felt like, oh, this pressure is too much for me. So I think I want to say something. I want to ask a question. So in this digital world that we have, that everybody has access to your works now, do we have platforms and tools that African music professionals leverage on for global visibility? I mean, I know there's just social media platforms and things like that. So what other PR platforms do African music professionals overlook?
How do you mean?
So like, I mean, for PR platforms, usually we have the one that's at the fingertips of everybody now is their social media accounts and social media platforms. I believe that there are other platforms that people can leverage.
Methods, or there are other ways that talents can get their out there beyond social media. All right, so newsletter. People underestimate the power of community, but I believe that as a talent, you should communicate with your audience personally beyond what your team is doing. How do they get a personalized how do you make them feel like a part of something, a part of your journey? Because that is also something that PR is about. It is about community. It's about building credibility, either through people or whatever. Just ensuring that when you come out, when you release a product, when you release a that, you have people that would, for lack of a better word, follow. You have people thing, that would carry it and publicize it to as many people as possible. I feel like newsletters is a very, very strong way to go. I often encourage clients to engage in a newsletter habit, as a way to communicate with your people and to convert new people as well. Doesn't have to be a lengthy write-up. Heck, it could be something that you were up to over the weekend, a drawing, a painting, a half beat. Send it out in a nice broadcast newsletter. Just you must have amassed a certain level of data from your people. Look for ways to talk to your people. I will be sending newsletters out on so to my fans. Drop me an email, you will hear from me. I believe that those are strong ways for African talents to interact, right? That's the question. Interact with their audience and to build credibility and to build strong PR for themselves. Also, sell yourself. Use LinkedIn. I know like LinkedIn is a bit stiff. It could be a bit too formal. It could be a bit this or that. But majority of the people that you might be looking for who are beyond your peers, potential investors, are on LinkedIn. And your consistency on that platform could potentially bag you someone who is so interested in you that will be willing to invest in your craft. So beyond the use of Instagram, beyond the use of X, you should be willing to publicize yourself in other ways. Publicize yourself to professionals, publicize yourself, more core to your community, and create, something personal. That is also, those are other ways that I recommend for African talents, African creatives, African music professionals to publicize themselves. That work that you did, that campaign that you work, and I'm even now, let's bring it back to African music professionals as per the executives. No one is going to do it for you. Even with that referral, they're going to want to see something. So the onus is on you to put everything that you do out. You sneezed, put it out. You managed service for a show, put it out. You did all this go together to show your skill set, and you don't know who you are publicizing yourself to. So I think, like, always letting people be aware of what you're doing is very essential. Using all your platforms necessary. Use your Instagram, cross amplify to make the content more Twitter in a way that your audience on Twitter will resonate with it. Make it, upscale it to be a bit more professional for your LinkedIn community to be able to resonate with it. Put it into a newsletter in a crafty, creative way for your audience to be able to interact with it. You are communicating different, the same messages to different platforms in different ways. And that way, people are getting more and more aware of the things that you're doing, and you will not need too much fact checking when it comes down to it, because once they put up your name somewhere, your credentials would come out, and that's what makes for good publicity.
Thank you so much. That was like really wide. I myself have learned a lot of things from that now. So, okay, yeah. So we keep putting our things out. If you sneeze, put your stuff out, guys. What'd you say?
Trust me, you'll be surprised how many people want that inside scoop. That's why people don't understand the essence of Snapchat. People are like, girl, why are you always on Snapchat? This, that. That's where the tea at. If you're trying to get the tea on your faves, those incomplete story, all you need to do is follow everyone around them, and you'll get the whole scoop. Unless they are members of teams that do not post. But trust me, if for say Fireboy is somewhere and you see that he's in a company of some people, he might make just 2 posts. If you follow his manager might make 4 posts. If you know a friend that's always with him, you might get 5 more posts. So all of that comes together to build a story. Do you get what I mean? So at the end of the day, man, just utilize your resources and put yourself out there as much as possible. That's how blogs get their information. Sourcing. They're going across all the platforms. They go on Twitter, they go on Instagram, they go on Snapchat, on that one person's account, just to get the whole tea. So yeah, put yourself out there.
So the cutaway from that is social media. Every platform that you are on is your outlet to the world, is the way you can communicate.
You can remember that your messaging also matters, because you can remember that I said cross amplify, tweak to fit Twitter, tweak to fit LinkedIn. You cannot use the same caption that you used on Instagram for your LinkedIn. It will not work. You can use caption and carry it on Twitter. It will not work. One content, different platforms of communication, but you're still selling one message, one voice. You just need to find how to communicate with all the different platforms, that one message that you're trying to pass across.
In simpler words, if you're speaking to a Frenchman, you speak French. If you're speaking to an Englishman, you speak English. If you're speaking to a Spaniard, you speak Spanish. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can artists and teams align PR timelines with other critical milestones like DSP campaigns? This one is a very interesting question. Touring and album drops, because sometimes we have different events all at once, and then it feels like they are clashing. But I think now it has been working, because there is a way that professionals have been integrating it. Practically speaking, Davido was going to run his tour, his Five Alive tour, which was supposed to also promote his album. And we can see that the whole PR push and stuff just synced together without it feeling like, you are doing different things at the same time. People are distracted. Okay, which one do you want us to take first? I don't know if that actually makes sense. So, yes. How can upcoming guys, basically things we're saying now are for people that have not cracked it. They don't know how to go about it. So how can they align these timelines together?
So I've also done campaigns where I understand how a campaign can be disjointed, and I also understand what it takes to align a campaign as well. Campaigns often come across disjointed, especially from a PR marketing point of view, when teams think that PR can be brought on board mid-campaign, which is not so. PR, as a matter of fact, is the core of your campaign beyond marketing. And I'll tell you why. Even though if marketing converts sales, PR is the, for lack of a better word, I'm such a Yoruba girl, the agogo that you ring before you start that journey that you are going, that something is coming, something is coming, something is coming. If you do not alert the people and you begin to work, you start feeling like, why is nobody looking at what I'm doing? Because you did not even tell them that you were doing anything in the first place. So PR is not an afterthought. Rather, it is the pilot of any successful campaign, because we are the ones that craft the narrative for how that campaign will be received and how it will be perceived. So if from the beginning of your campaign you don't have a narrative, you will be found scrambling because you think that PR is an add-on. PR is not an add-on, because I cannot start to tell your story from the middle. You want to drop an album, there have been processes that have happened before even that decision was taking place. All those need to be properly documented in a way that your album begins to make sense. Do you get where I'm coming from? You cannot craft your marketing plan, do your whole branding, everything, and then just start your campaign. I don't believe in the success of a campaign like that. I believe in we're putting an album together, we're putting an album out. What is the angle we are taking? What story are we trying to tell through this album? And what are we expecting in return? By the end of this campaign, how do we want this person to be perceived? What are the key things from this campaign that we are trying to put in the forefront of the people? Very important questions that need to be answered before you go into your marketing phase, because your narrative then crafts your marketing direction, which then sets the tone for the rest of your campaign. So the storytelling has begun from the very, very beginning. Heck, it could have even begun from the studio session that happened through one of the songs that's going to be on the project. Any small detail from the process can be used to tell a bigger story depending on the angle that you are taking. And you cannot pick an angle for a narrative without the presence of a PR specialist or a PR manager, because they are the keen eye in that detail. Oh, this is one cool thing that I think people will be interested in. This is one cool thing I think that we should document. That is why we have artists going back to create recording videos of sessions that they already finished. Right. Because they did not include their PR in the crafting. There are things that will be essential to me in your storytelling through your release that I would not have assets to be able to create because you did not inform me from the get. And that's why we don't have enough materials as well to promote said projects, because there is no one in charge and responsible for the storytelling, the content creation that will be required for a proper storytelling. As a publicist can say, you're having a session tomorrow, I'm going to get a photographer and a videographer there, let's try and take something, let's see what we can make out of that content. All that builds up to, oh, you're going to tomorrow, let's see if there's something that we can cover here or there. Okay, we're going to the club, let's see, can we get them to play the song? Let's see if we can get a clip from that. As a PR, I'm concerned about the consistent messaging. How do I continue to feed your audience to make them and keep them interested in you? So my eyes are on the things that you are not looking at from behind the scenes, from a people's perception, how I perceive your brand and how I plan to sell it to the next man. So if you do not have a PR manager on your team for your campaigns, for anything at all, even an event that you're trying to do, you are wrong.
Thanks for the gospel truth. It felt like some preaching session.
I love it.
So I was going to ask a question, but now it feels like you've answered my question, because, you know, I'm taking it back to the analogy I gave earlier of coming from the backstage, and then you're right in the presence of like 30,000 people that you never expected to stand in front of them. And then I was going to ask about, like, convert and have a compelling pitch to get your message out? I mean, now that you have your message, you have everything that you need. Of course, the go-to answer would be to hire a PR manager. But for emerging talents who are unable to hire these guys, I don't want to ask this question because you've already answered it. But I just want to do that again because of people that might have lost.
I feel like there was something I didn't in the last question that might just like wrap this up. And I feel like is how you tie the different PRs in different regions together, because obviously one PR may not be enough for say an album campaign, especially an album campaign which you're trying to run globally. So it is very important that every member of the team is in sync, either through a group chat, a weekly group call, something. All PRs in all regions must be in communication. PR and marketing must be in communication so as to enable a swift rollout. Nigerian PR, American PR, UK PR, rest of Africa PR. All of them work together for the success of a campaign. You cannot be talking to your UK PR separately and be talking to your US PR separately, because you will now begin to have a case where content is being replicated as opposed to presenting a united front. So one thing that must stand campaign is to present a united front. Regardless of how many people are working on it, they must all be working together.
I think this was an amazing session. We've dropped a lot of banger points. We've dropped a lot of secrets.
Yes, so if you want pointers on how to draft a pitch, you are looking to create a pitch, you don't know how to, I'm your gal, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you.
Right. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate
it.
Thank you
so much for taking 44 minutes of my time. I appreciate.
This is South Africa, and we talk about a lot of things in our L&D series. We talk about the music professionals and the music business. And here we had Fadehan Okpeseyi. All right. Yeah. So follow us on our socials to get more information about this. We could send your questions down to her in case you have questions, and then if you want to book sessions also, we can help you reach out to her, and she wouldn't bill you so much. All right guys, thank you so much, guys.